Hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday. Moved our Friday edition of Boilermaker Lounge to Saturday due to the July 4th weekend or holiday, and also some FIBA stuff going on that we wanted to be able to chat about during this episode. I am Sam Springer, as always, joined by Grant Flora. Grant, um, it's a busy weekend.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was kind of crazy. We had some games yesterday morning was when those FIBA games were. So 4th of July, which I mean, it's all time zone stuff. Obviously, they're not playing in the morning over in Switzerland, but
Right.
it was just kind of weird to wake up on the 4th of July and get some basketball to watch. But yeah, it was a bit of a rougher day, I think, for the Boilermakers, both future and present, as far as Jacobson and Meyer are concerned in their games. But they still got the play and got the experience. So we're obviously going to break it down. But it was another eventful week, I guess, overall with what's transpired in the FIBA world.
Yeah, we were talking about that off air that you know, Omar Meyer and the Israeli team got beat by Slovenia in the quarterfinals, and it wasn't the production that he had against Cameroon the game prior, but Omar Meyer did play. Uh, I guess. I mean, when you score 33 the night before the game before, you kind of tend to get caught as the person that they're going to probably lock down. And Slovenia is a darn good team, and they were able to lock Meyer down over what we were used to seeing from Meyer.
Yeah, Israel's beaten them in the past in like some past tournaments and stuff with this U18, U19 stuff. So I thought Israel had a solid chance to win the game going into
Yeah.
it, but yeah, Slovenia was just not going to let Omar Meyer do anything. They were going to make those other guys beat them, and respectfully, the rest of Israel's team is not that good. I mean, they had the one kid that
Oren
had a good
Sahar.
game and yeah, went like 20 points, but
Yep.
he isn't normally that good, I don't think, and the Balaga kid has played better in the past, so he didn't do a whole lot against Slovenia. Basically, Omer was trying to do a lot, I think, and just Slovenia was going to double him and face guard him and
Hmm.
all the stuff to take him out of the game. And we saw, I think, some of Omer's limitations. Like if you take him out of the game and his teammates can't relieve all that pressure, he's going to struggle. He's not like unstoppable in that sense. And so it caused Israel to struggle as a team,
Well,
and
if you, oh,
that's what we saw.
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're
Well,
good.
if you look at past games, even the games that he kind of struggled in to score, his plus minus was normally pretty darn high. You look at his game against Slovenia, he was net minus 16. But in fairness, there were no Israelis that were in the plus in the game. Excuse me, but he was minus 16. He was 4 of 11 from the field, 3 of 4 from two-point range, but he's 1 for 7 from threes. He had 6 rebounds. So I mean, he didn't play a horrible game. 4 assists, and we talked about that with Dustin the other day, Grant. That um, it's not that he doesn't trust his team, but there's a sense of trusting whether or not some of these things and some passes that he would make that would maybe go not get caught or not be finished. And he had 6 turnovers on top of that. So I don't know how I didn't watch the game because in the US they tipped off at like 5:15 in the morning. But how many of these were him dribbling too much because he couldn't really trust where he was going with it, or he felt he had to, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I watched a good portion of the game. Um, he it looked like a lot of it was a little bit of the dribbling, also just some passes that got taken away, and I was a little surprised actually to see that he had 6 turnovers. I didn't register that he turned it over that many times,
Yeah.
but um, it just kind of looked like he just couldn't really get into his spot. Slovenia was face guarding him 100%. They were just going to take the ball out of his hands, and that's kind of what happened. He only shot the ball 11 times, which doesn't sound like it's small, but actually for Omer, when you're the primary scorer and player on the team to only shoot it 11 times isn't that much. And it just shows he didn't get that many opportunities. He only shot it 3 times in the second half. They just weren't gonna give him much. And so he tried to create for others. He had a few assists, but he should have had more assists. Some guys had some beautiful looks that they couldn't
Right.
convert on. But yeah, it was just one of those games where they took Omar out of it, and the rest of Israel's team really couldn't do a whole lot defensively. I thought they definitely struggled to rebound. That killed them a lot, but also just keeping Slovenia out of the paint, keeping them from getting open opportunities. So taking Omar out of the game obviously really hurt Israel overall.
And if you are looking at the FIBA website or saw that Israel played today, they did. They lost to Arizona. Good Lord. The word Arizona was flashing in an ad against Australia, but Omar Meyer did not play. He didn't play at all, so he didn't have any sort of stat line or anything from that game. So I believe since it was kind of a consolation, they wanted to get the guys that maybe don't play normally as much and get them some playing time. But Omar Meyer did not play in that game against Australia. But with the aspect of Meyer, he showed spurts, and you know what, that to me is why there's such an excitement about him coming to West Lafayette, is because the flashes of greatness that we've seen from him. It doesn't matter who against. If he's pulling off some of those things, period, he's going to get better. He's going to constantly be getting improvement. He's going to, and we all know this, but, and the rest of the country seems to be understanding and at least starting to learn it. When you go to Purdue, you're going to get better. That's what Matt Painter and his staff does. He's going to take a good player and turn them into a better player as long as they want to do the work. And I think you, me, and Dustin all covered that. Matt Painter's not going to offer or bring them in if they don't fit the culture 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, and the way that Omar plays is going to change at Purdue, and he's going to be fourth option at best in most cases when he's on the court. You've got Fletch, Braden, and TKR that are kind of the main three. So obviously he's not going to find himself in that kind of a situation. Now he's also going to play a lot better basketball players as far as the Big Ten is concerned. Most of the teams they played in this tournament were not top-notch college basketball teams. They wouldn't really compare. So that'll be interesting just to see how he handles.
Let's say it this way, though, too. They have to be good at basketball at least somewhat to be on the national team.
Yeah, we're not talking about just overall bad basketball players.
They're not picking me up, and putting me on the team.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles some of the bigger guards and stuff that the Big Ten might throw at him. But again, he's going to be your fourth option. He's the guy that Braden Smith could pass to when he's wide open for three. And Omar, when he's been playing his best, is going to knock those shots down most of the time. And that's the kind of thing I think Purdue is looking for. A guy who can do that, can also drive and create for others if he needs to. And having both him and Braden capable of doing that, it's just going to make it so you have to kind of split your attention. I mean, you split your attention with guys like Braden Smith and Omar Meyer. It's tough to stop those guys. And that's what Omar's going to bring to Purdue. And it's what Purdue is going to bring to Omar.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Meyer's time in Switzerland is finished, but we go to the other Boilermaker in action, Daniel Jacobson. Him and Team USA take down Canada 108-102 in their quarterfinal game, and we'll move on to the semis. We mentioned Daniel didn't get a lot of playing time. He only had 5 minutes of action, took 2 shots, made one of them, had 1 rebound. For a 7 foot plus guy to have 1 rebound, he didn't play much time.
Yeah, I saw the fourth quarter of that game. He did not appear at all. Merez Johnson was in. Merez looked like he was playing good. So I think that's kind of what happened is Merez probably got to a point where he was playing really well and they just stuck with him, which is probably the right decision for them if he's playing well to to go with him, and obviously USA pulled it out. But that was a I don't know if it was supposed to be that close, but I would imagine that anytime Team USA plays, they're expecting to blow out the other team. So that was an interesting game for sure. Obviously, we'd like to see Jacobson play more, but he's just still trying to figure it out. He's even when he's been in, you can just kind of tell he's not the dominant force that some of those other guys are, and um, it's for our purposes, again, more minutes the better because we get to get more material from him. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for the team, sticking with Perez is probably the right decision, especially with some of the guys they were trying to handle, just some more athletic players from Canada, some guys that could move um, and just kind of create some issues that Perez might have been more capable of dealing with. Like even with block shots and stuff, Perez was all over the blocking the shots and the boards and everything. So just not a game maybe that Jacobson can come in and make as big of an impact.
Well, we've got the semifinals for the FIBA U19 tournament is set. You got Slovenia against Germany, and then New Zealand against the United States. Slovenia and Germany take place at 11 a.m. this morning, so just a little bit from now. And then the U.S. and New Zealand battle at 2 p.m. Eastern time for the right to go to the finals. With Jacobson, I know we've talked about it a couple of different times. While I would absolutely love to see him keep playing, or play as much as possible, and to be able to maybe um get some good point, some points and stuff like that. I'm not 100% really concerned with whether or not he's an integral part of the game plan, I guess. And that's not to say that I don't want him to get in there and make some plays and do well. It's just I don't see him as I think he's got a lot on his plate. And as the Purdue fan in me, I'm I'm okay with him getting five. I'd rather see him get more than 5 minutes, but 5 to 10 minutes a game, as long as he's getting some up and down, getting some ins and outs, and trying to work that new body, I'm okay with what he's doing. And am I disappointed that he only scored 2 points? Yeah, but in the aspect of what it's gonna eventually turn into later, I'm not extremely concerned with how, like you said, the U.S. is expected to win this. It's not because of Daniel Jacobson that they're expected to win this. So I think he's the icing on the cake for us because USA gets to potentially play for a championship in this bracket, and Daniel Jacobson gets into basketball playing shape. He doesn't have to wear the rust off when he gets to West Lafayette and it's tip off time.
Yeah, I think these FIBA tournaments and other like off-season sorts of experiences and whatnot, I think they have the ability to really help you
Sure.
to grow as a player, get more experience and stuff. I don't think they're really going to hurt you. Like you can't have
Right.
bad performances and be like, oh, this is really going to be a problem for this player.
Right.
Like it's just an opportunity to get better and to have some fun. But if it's not like if you're not playing your best basketball, you're not going to have a worse college season because of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
not. I mean, as long as you're not like getting injured or something, you know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean. So I think it's definitely not a reason to be concerned. I don't think with Daniel Jacobson coming back, especially when he's not even necessarily supposed to be the main centerpiece when you have
Right.
Oscar Clough in there too. So um, yeah, it definitely not a concern for me. Like you said, it'd be nice to see him play more and maybe be a little bit more productive. But overall, he's on the team. He's getting more experience, and who knows? He's got 2 more games left. We'll still see some more from him, at least a little bit. You would think so. It'll be interesting couple of games, but overall, can't be concerned with what Daniel Jacobson's done so far.
Right. Well, either way, we're hoping the U.S. does advance. New Zealand, kind of a surprise team in that they pulled off an upset in the first round, and now they're sitting here in the semifinals with a chance to shock the world and beat the U.S. But I'm not holding my breath on that here at 2 o'clock Eastern today. But good on them for at least making it to this point to where they can try to fight their way to the finals. But let's move on to, the newcomer debate. And I use that kind of haphazardly because it's not really a debate. We're not going to sit here and yell at each other because honestly, they're all really good options. But there are 4 newcomers to this year's roster. We have Oscar Clough, Liam Murphy, which we didn't talk about at all with Dustin the other day. He's going to have to eventually find some minutes. I know he is going to start the season recovering from an injury that might slow his progress in getting back into the flow of things, but he's going to be somebody that's going to need minutes. Antoine West Jr. and Omar Meyer. Grant, of these 4, ESPN has named their biggest impact newcomer, but of these 4, who do you think it is? Do you agree with ESPN?
I think I do, only because, for the record, ESPN named Oscar Clough as their biggest impact newcomer for Purdue. I think I have to agree only because of where Purdue's biggest weaknesses were and what they brought in to supplement that. Like, Oscar Clough is a great rebounder. He also can score. I mean, he's averaged 17 points at South Dakota State. Obviously, he's going to play tougher big man competition in the Big Ten, but his ability to rebound, I think, is going to be his biggest asset for Purdue. And I think he fills those holes and is ready to contribute automatically. Omar Meyer coming in might not even start. He's going to have a lot of other backcourt pieces to play with. You got Braden Smith still in there. I feel like if I'm Purdue, even though Omar, with what he's done in FIBA, honestly might be the better player and might have the best upside as far as pro aspirations, I think as far as an impact on the team, Oscar Clough is who you'd rather have because of his rebounding, his points, his position. You know, you need a center in there next to TKR, ideally. It just gives them a lot more of a solid lineup, whereas Omar Meyer, Purdue could probably survive without him. We've already talked about all the backcourt pieces that they have.
Not saying we don't want him either, though.
Right. No, I definitely want him. And definitely for like the following year when Braden and Fletcher are gone, he's going to be huge for them. But I think this year, as far as their biggest impact newcomer, Oscar Clough just fits more of those holes. But you could go Omar Meyer. You could go a guy like Liam Murphy if you really wanted to and could try and make an argument for that. But I think I do agree with ESPN's Oscar Clough pick there on the biggest newcomer because, like I said, all those holes.
Yeah, and that I would agree with it as well, because the amount of games that our guys lost because they couldn't defend the rim. They get beat on a drive and there's nobody at the rim to deter what's going on. They're getting, the opposition's getting lay-ins, dunks. If somebody does collapse to the hoop, they're, dishing it out to somebody that, can either drive to the hoop and dunk it, or they're hitting a short jumper. There was a lot of things that took place last year. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bemoaning it and gonna keep beating the drum, but this is, this is what we're talking about, is that was their deficiency. So if Oscar Clough can help close that up, and you know what? Daniel Jacobson's gonna do it too. He's just not a new ad. He's just there. He was hurt. He didn't get to play. So technically he's not an ad, even though he's going to be an add to what they have available to him as long as he stays healthy. And, Liam Murphy, like I said, that is, he could be someone that's very impactful, but he's going to have to work his way in too, because he's coming off of an injury that he's going to have to eventually, he's going to have to work the rust off like Jacobson's doing in Switzerland right now. Murphy's going to have to do that, during practice, during the exhibitions, during scrimmages, and then yes, even during games when he first sees some minutes. He may have a few rough games that he sees some minutes just because he's trying to work his way back into becoming as healthy as he can be. So Antoine West, we talked about him with Dustin. Dustin really, really believes he's going to be one great basketball player. He's going to be a baller, in his words. But he also could redshirt this year. Which just blows my mind, is you've got all these these great things to say about him, and say, oh yeah, by the way, he could redshirt. I think that's more telling to what Purdue has on their roster now, not any shortcomings of Antoine West. It's just a matter of, so he may not be impactful at all this year, simply because he might not even be able to play because he's redshirting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that on the assessments of Murphy and West for sure. So I think it comes down to Clough and Meyer. And
Yep.
like you're talking about, defensively, Clough will be helpful because he's a bigger body. Purdue didn't really, I mean, even Caleb Burst was not as big as Oscar Clough. Clough isn't known for his like major shot blocking ability or like Jacobson is. You know, he's not necessarily going to clean house over there, but he's going to be a presence, and having a presence is huge. And then potentially more importantly, he should do a better job keeping Trey Kaufman-Renn out of foul trouble, which was a major problem for Purdue last year too at times. So, yeah, just overall solidifying what Purdue wants to do and helping them not be in situations where they're in binds, as Matt Painter likes to talk about, where, you know, you get one guy in foul trouble and that makes everybody else have to do different things. Next thing you
Right.
know, your whole game plan's down the tubes. Guys like Oscar Clough help keep that from happening. And again, Omar Meyer, as good as he's going to be, might not even start. You have Jakari Harris and guys like Jack Benter and people like that will come in and be relievers in the backcourt anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think Omar Meyer gives Purdue a much higher ceiling and helps them to be a very good basketball team, just in the sense that you have him and Braden Smith that are point guards that can play very similar basketball. But I don't think he actually makes as big of an impact on this year's team
Mm-hmm.
as Oscar Clough does.
Yeah, if we're looking at, just looking at Clough and Meyer together and saying, okay, which is the better player? It's Omar Meyer. He's the better player. But you hit on two huge pieces during when you were talking about Clough. Is he might not be a a rim blocker, but he's a presence at the rim. As long as he's deterring the shots, that right there is a huge impact. He's keeping TKR out of foul trouble because TKR is not going to play against the big men that might draw him some fouls that did this last year. Those are two huge things right there, and impactful like that. He's not gonna TKR is not gonna guard the biggest guy. That's Clough. And this is us assuming that Clough is going to be the starter. I think it's probably going to happen that way, that Clough will be the starter and Jacobson will come in and spell Clough. But either way that it happens. But my point being is, as soon as you insert Clough into that lineup, it takes so much pressure off of what TKR has to do, because he doesn't have to play that 5 spot.
Yeah, I mean, defensively and offensively, because last year you had Caleb Burst, but like if I'm a defense, even though Caleb Burst might be a little bigger and play the 5, I'm putting my biggest guy on Trey Kaufman-Renn
Oh
because
yeah.
he's the guy that can score. Not necessarily the case this year. Oscar Clough can score and he's bigger. You can't necessarily throw a 4 on Oscar Clough and expect to be able to stop him. Purdue just switches it up, goes to Clough, and he probably scores just as easily if he's playing against a smaller defender. That helps guys like Trey Kaufman-Renn quite a bit because he's not going to have to work as hard, to be honest. And he can stay out of foul trouble offensively. I mean, he shouldn't get called for offensive fouls. Not that he did a lot last year, but
Right.
he's not going to be in that kind of a situation. He can work on just a 4-man that's a one-on-one situation where he can cook. I mean, every time he's in those situations, if you don't bring some sort of help, he's going to find a way to score on you. And it's just a situation, like Matt Painter says, where you put the defense in a bind. Next thing you know, some guys kind of helping off of Clough. Clough's going to be wide open. You got your guards, and it creates all sorts of situations, primarily because you have a guy like Oscar Clough at the 5 who can score and is bigger, as opposed to Caleb First, who is not as big and really not nearly as much of an offensive threat.
Well, and if you think about, sorry to cut you off, but if you think about it, if Caleb First wasn't in the blocks, they didn't need to guard him.
Right.
They just left him go. You're going to go out to the 3-point line, go right ahead. You stand out there. You're not shooting the ball out there. So it made guarding easy,
Yeah.
whereas, not that Clough can shoot the long ball, but he can go 15 feet out, and that's, we're in good shape. That's going to draw the defense out a little bit more than normal.
Yeah, it's the difference, I think, is Purdue's going to have 5 scorers on the floor pretty much
Yeah.
at all times this year. Last year, you really only had 3. Even when CJ Cox and Ja'Carri Harris were those third guards, like
Yeah.
if they were open from 3, they were going to shoot it, but you really didn't have to worry about them taking you off the dribble and creating for themselves. You could shade off and work on Fletcher and Braden.
Yep.
Now, Cox and Harris should be more experienced scorers. Omar Meyer also, and then Fletch, Braden. You're going to have 5 scorers one way or another between your backcourt, and then Clough and Jacobson being much stronger pieces at the 5. So that's what makes life really difficult for a defense, is when you have to respect everybody on the court.
Yeah. Yeah, and heaven forbid something happened to Braden Smith, but some of the flashes we've seen from Omar Meyer while he's in Switzerland doesn't make it any easier or less of a nightmare if Braden Smith were to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes some of the edge off, because you're like, okay, we've got somebody that could conceivably come in and do just not exactly the same, but a lot of the things that we're used to seeing with Braden anyway.
If Braden gets hurt, then I think my answer probably changes, and Omar Meyer becomes biggest impact newcomer. But obviously, we're assuming that doesn't happen. And like you said, really would be nice if that didn't happen. So
yeah, I'm not at all wishing that to happen by any means whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just you've got to sit there and think as a possibility that could be something that would happen. But I agree. Oscar Clough, he was the first signing that Purdue made this off season, and it was such a. It looks like, and he hasn't even made it to campus yet. That tells you that what his expectations are. But you know what? I don't think he signs on to it if he doesn't know what he's bringing, what he's expected to have. And I think he welcomes that challenge, because it is going to be a challenge. He's going to have to alleviate a lot of pressure off of an all Big Ten and an honorable mention All-American to allow him. And that's the scary thing, Grant, is TKR's an honorable mention All-American, and he played a 4-5 hybrid all year out of position.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And for Clough, it's going to be hard, obviously, or it's going to have its difficulties to be able to play that way. But at the same time, about a perfect situation. You can come in through the portal and jump onto this team that's going to be a national title favorite. You're going to have, most likely, you're going to be a starter, or at least a pretty significant role in the front court.
At the very least, sharing minutes, equal minutes, basically.
Right, and yet you're not the main guy. You have 3 other guys that are probably going to be bigger focuses for the defense, and you can come in and just kind of do whatever you want as far as like when you get the ball. Because he's not the focus, he's going to have so much less pressure. Like, he might not be the guy getting the most touches, but he has no pressure when he does get it, and he will get it, because there are going to be teams that have to focus on Trey Kaufman-Renn, which means Oscar Clough is going to have a lot more opportunities. He gets to just jump on a team like that and have a major role, but at the same time not be the best player on the team. I think that has to be really appealing to a guy like him, and has to be a huge reason why he showed up to Purdue.
Yeah, he knew what he was signing into when he committed to Purdue, and it was definitely explained to him. I'm sure you're not going to be in 1, 2, or 3, option 1, 2, or 3 when it comes to being expected to score, but we want you to score, And so I think I think ESPN hit this one just right. Because I think Oscar Clough is going to be pretty impactful this coming season.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see these guys in Purdue uniforms. Like Omar Meyer just wearing the black and golds, like that's going to be pretty insane. Same with Clough. Yeah. When they go to Kentucky in October, That's going to be a really fun moment just to see all of this talk and all of these players that have come in and players that are returning just all together on one team and see them take on a good Kentucky team. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we've been counting down the days ever since that Houston game, but now it's just going to be a big, I don't know, it's going to be a big day when that happens, and we get to finally see these guys suit up in the black and gold and put it all together. So definitely going to be looking forward to it for sure.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Well, that brings us to the end. Grant, a quickie, but really good information and good conversation talking about FIBA and then who our top newcomer of next season will be. It's a Saturday. We're not used to that, but we will be back on our normal Tuesday, Friday, at least we expect our normal Tuesday, Friday schedule next week. But for Grant Flora, I'm Sam Sprunger. Thanks for joining us on Boilermaker Lounge, and we'll see you on Tuesday.